What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast.
If you want to be successful, look inside.
We don't like sitting in the discomfort.
Then all of a sudden that day came when I got $20 and 2 free drinks to do a show, and I was like, oh shit, here we go, baby. You know?
Thank God she hasn't caught a chicken yet, because she'll tear his head off.
Don't be soft.
That patience is key.
If all my friends are winning, then it's going to make me want to win more.
Woo! We're excited to get it rocking today, guys. Back on the Sweat It Out podcast. We're definitely excited to announce this tremendous guest we're bringing on today. She is an amazing entrepreneur, the founder and CEO of Touchland, seen on Business Insider as a top woman entrepreneur. Guys, help us welcome the one and only Andrea Lisbona. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your time.
I know you're a busy individual, and I know you're telling us about your campaign that you just finished. So I think it's a great way to start the podcast. Tell us a little bit about that, about your campaign. I know you said it was something you guys been working hard on. Definitely would love to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So we launched yesterday a campaign called Touch Like in the Before. I think we're living a historic momentum in humanity where we have not been able to be human, to touch, feel, hug your parents and everything. And I think this is a campaign where we actually amplify the reason why we started in 2010, which is empowering people to live fearlessly, curiously, passionately, but not recklessly. We want people to have a blast and still be safe and smart about it. So we launched a campaign yesterday. It has had a great reception from our fan base, and we've had a lot of media coverage of the campaign. It's very visual. It's an underground party in New York. And what we really want to do is we are a hand sanitizer that it's not going to drive you to buy through fear. We want to empower people to go out and be human again, and have an ally on the go that takes care of their health. That's awesome.
So what were some of the big points that you made in your campaign to really drive that awareness, to really drive that forward in the community, to, for people to feel good being out and about and still enjoying life? And of course, hand sanitizer being a big part of what we're going through. What were some of the big things you pushed in your campaign that were big pointers?
Yeah, so it's a campaign that it's very visual. So the story is about a woman that goes into a party in New York, enters, uses the hand sanitizer and have fun, has a blast, and then leaves the party and leaves the hand sanitizer there, which also shows the shareability component of our product. We have built a hand sanitizer that people not only buy for themselves, but they buy it as a gift. They want to share it with their friends and family. It looks like an iPhone. It feels like perfume, cool. And it's a hand sanitizer. So truly the campaign it's to talk about what no one wants to talk, which is like, we don't know anymore what's good, what's bad. Should we go out? Should we stay at home? Should we hug? Should we say hi with the elbows? And I think we're going to be in this for a long time. 80% of infectious diseases are spread through hands, and that's why we started in 2010. It's not related to a pandemic. The easiest way for you to stay healthy is just keeping your hands clean. And I think that's the message. We want to make hand hygiene sexy, not through educational and all that, because it's harder to communicate. We want to create a very sexy product that you want to brag about.
Do you think my hands are sexy enough for your product?
They are.
Yeah. People have been telling him he should become a hand model and give up the whole fitness thing. So, So
I'm not a head model, definitely.
You said you started in 2010. What made you want to, leap into the business of, start talking about wellness and protecting people when it comes to their hands and when it comes to, not spreading germs or viruses around? Obviously the hand sanitizer is just a component of what you do, but what really made you want to, take this leap in 2010 and go out on your own and start building the amazing company that you have today?
Yeah, so I was 24 years old, so I was still studying fashion design. I was raised in an entrepreneurial family, and I have lived through the ups and downs of and being an entrepreneur is, from we just signed an amazing client to I don't know if we're going to have money to pay the rent this month, which it excites me. I'm comfortable with uncertainty, and I think that's something that not many people is comfortable with. Right. And I feel like we have a limited time in the world. And so I just rather be doing something that is going to make people's life better than just working for someone and just from 9 to 5. And I was very inspired by companies like Nespresso or Apple or Dyson. Like if you think about Nespresso, I would never have the patience to have my coffee, warm it up, 10 minutes and all that. Now I just can click a button and I get my coffee. And I think companies like this have reinvented, it's not even invention, it's reinventing commodities and products that you use in your day-to-day, and they make it easier, smarter, and more pleasing to use. So when I thought about hand sanitizer, I discovered it when I was studying in USC. I'm from Barcelona, as you can tell from my accent. I studied there for 6 months, and I came across this product that every single American was using, and everyone was complaining, called hand sanitizer. And the more that I got to learn about it, and if you think when you're on the go, traveling overs, taking a bike, anything, you don't have water and soap available. So truly this product, it's your best friend on the go. It's for me, when I'm traveling in a plane, the fact that I can make just one mist and feel clean and disinfected, it makes you feel great. So I thought that this business was enormous, like it touches everyone, every age, every industry. And so we set up ourselves to become the Apples, the Dysons, the Nespressos of the hand sanitizers.
Well, and you lifted up the product, and the first thing I noticed was, how aesthetically pleasing 100%. It was, right? And you talk about Nespresso, you talk about Apple, you talk about these very innovative companies, and they all kind of fall within that line of creating products that are not only very user-friendly and are very functional, but they also are aesthetically pleasing, right? Like you would never mind having an espresso machine on your countertop or being able to use a Mac or an iPhone, right? What made you guys come up with the design or say like, okay, listen, we got to change the way that they're utilizing these bottles and make them a little more sleeker and nicer to actually have around instead of the ones that you see dangling on people's backpacks all day.
Make it sexy, especially here in Miami.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So first of all, we knew that we wanted to disrupt the form factor. Before Touchland, everything was, as you said, this bottle that hangs on people's backpack, applies like ketchup in your hands. It's just a very unsexy experience. And then obviously, I've always loved design. I think like design makes things better. And it's not just like an aesthetic thing, but it's like how it works. So I studied fashion design, and I started studying how Apple designs products and other companies, and they applied something called the golden ratio, Fibonacci. So it's something that you cannot, this is a golden ratio product. Of course not. But the reason why Apple products are so aesthetically pleasing is because they use the golden ratio, which is the human proportion, nature's proportion to the product. And so we apply the golden ratio to everything that we design, from the product. The logo itself, before 2014, it was the smiley hand, but it was not as beautiful as it is right now because we made sure that it had it. And even companies like Twitter, their logo, everything is golden ratio. So that's the two initiatives that we took to come up with a product like this that, again, we've had 34,000 people wait list on a hand sanitizer. Incredible. Which is numbers that normally are not related to hygiene products.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I agree. It definitely looks the aesthetic of it, it just makes me want to have one in my hands. And I was going to ask you, do you mind showing us how it works?
Yeah. So basically, we just launched this product yesterday. It's a 30 milliliter. It delivers 500 sprays.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so for the people who are on audio, she's spraying it in her hands.
It
comes out like perfume, so it's not that gel liquid that feels sticky under your hands, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a mist, and it covers the palm of your hand. And I think Touchland is unlocks surprises for every moment of the product. Like you see it surprises you. You spray it on your hand. It covers really good the hand. And then I think the worst part of hand sanitizers is the whole experience. It smells like vodka or tequila.
Right about that.
It's very sticky. It cracks your skin. So we wanted to create a skin first formula that it really it's not sticky. It's fast absorbing. It leaves hands velvet soft. And yesterday we launched a collection of 12 scents that we developed with Shivadan, which is a perfume top top French perfume house, and they developed 12 scents that it truly doesn't seem like you are using hand sanitizer. Like people say, oh, this makes me feel like I'm in Bali drinking a pina colada, or this makes me feel so. At the end of the day, it's like making people happy through experiences, and people, when they try Touchland, they say like, it makes me happy, which I think it's the magic and what makes us more proud.
No, really cool. I know Josh and I are definitely going to get some of those
100%
hand
right
sanitizers after this episode. I was going to ask you, with the actual the hand sanitizer, is that reusable, or do they buy a new one every time, or do you actually fill it up again after it's done being used?
Yeah, so in regards of that, no, it's not refillable. The reason why is because when you refill hand sanitizer containers, there is a risk of cross-contamination of bacteria and everything. So right now it's non-refillable. We are right now on a process to become a plastic neutral company. So what means is like, because we cannot refill this product for safety, what we're doing is basically offset the plastic that we put into the market with a company that does this for P&G and many other companies that also generate plastic. And we're working on a refillable solution, always with the insurance that we don't get into any cross-contamination risk.
Incredible. You know, you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you know, about entrepreneurship and starting your own business, and sometimes feeling great because you got a brand new client that's going to be amazing and a lifelong client. Sometimes you don't even know when you're going to be able to pay your bills, right? Where do you believe your entrepreneurial mindset comes from? I know you said your family a little bit, but I would love to hear, you know, more about that backstory and, you know, what makes you so resilient to be able to get to the point to have the success that you've been having. You know, a lot of people want to be able to achieve the success of having a company, you know, that can be able to launch campaigns and get the press that you're getting. How were you able to, you know, build that type of mindset and that type of resiliency and be able to turn it into, you know, the beneficial products and the success that you've been having recently?
Yeah, so the first inspiration, of course, it was my father, because I've seen like companies, I always say, are like cycles. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. It's not like companies go up all the way. And I think I've seen him suffering. We suffered the economic recession in 2008. We had everything, we lost everything. And then we build it up again. So I think I lived it in a first person experience. And then when you think about like every story of entrepreneurs, like I see the Steve Jobs movie, I see Joy Mangano's story on HSN with the mob, and I don't see any of the stories where it's like, oh yeah, it's a great life, pink life, happy moment. It's a hell of a nightmare all the single time. We are celebrating something and then something happens again. We patented this design last year. We experienced 2,000 patent infringements. There's never, a lot of people say like, you should be very proud and celebrating. And it's like, I can. The moment that I'm celebrating, something happens, like, or our truck and container gets lost, or like, there's always a trillion things happening. And I think what really keeps me going is that long-term vision. Like, I think you're always going to get there. You may have to switch the way you're going. I think like that's part of being, it's not only about persistence. It's about like, okay, like you cannot be hitting the same wall over and over again, find another path to get there. And we've done it a lot of times, adjusting the wheels to get to where we want to be. But it's the long-term vision and having a very noble goal. I didn't start this to be rich, or I truly wanted to leave some heritage in the world. And the same way that Steve Jobs really did not only build an amazing company, but it inspired a lot of entrepreneurs around the world, or Coco Chanel being the first woman that created handbags with chains, so women didn't have to have a handbag in their hands and be able to be more equal. There's like all of these stories, and most of them they went through, they couldn't even see their success. Enzo Ferrari, like, all his life was a disaster. If he would be awake now seeing what he built. But I think you have to have a reason why, and if you find it and it's not driven by economic purposes, but truly because you're doing something that you think it's positive for the world, I think that it's worth it to dedicate your life to it.
I agree. I think you couldn't have said it any better. You know, it is a journey. It is a process. And it's like I say all the time, it's it's one of those things that you have to really love what you're doing, and you're willing to do the crap that might not be the most favorite thing every single day, years, months, whatever it takes, because you love that long-term result and the impact that you can drive within. That's what keeps you moving. Because it is easy to get discouraged, and you see a lot of people stop doing what they're doing because they're like, man, like I thought I was only going to be doing what I loved every single day. And a lot of people don't understand that that's not true. You know, just because you love the idea and the result of what you're going to be doing, you have to understand too, it's going to take hardship, it's going to take sacrifice, it's going to take losses, it's going to take failures, it's going to take multiple different
tears
changes.
and sweat and
and you're definitely an example of that, you know, because we have this idea of it's only going to go this way, but life will hit you and the path might be going you this way
constantly,
and this way and back this way. But if you have your head straight, you eventually will get to the goal, right? Doesn't matter how you get there, but you will get to the goal. And I love that you talked about that, because I think more and more people need to hear that, especially in the world that we live in today, where, you know, you can, which don't get me wrong, there's great resources. We have more things than ever to be able to go out there and do things. But I think also at the same time, people get caught up in their head and they only see what they feel is like, man, like that's what I need to live right now. And that's the only way to do it. Or this is this because this person has this, but they don't realize like it took a lot to get there. It took a lot to get there. You know, it didn't just happen overnight. You know, for you started in 2010, and look, even now, like you're still moving that agenda. You're still
100%. We're 1% of where we can be. And I think like being humble, I think it's something very important. Like, especially for us last year, we experienced the massive growth, and a lot of people was like the fever of gold, keep your feet on the floor, like just think long-term, because I think like some people just like, oh, we raise funds, now let's go crazy. Oh, and I always think about it as like another backpack. It's nothing to celebrate. Like these people is going to expect to get 10 times or 100 times what they put in. So it's like that kind of like having the feet on the floor all the time, if it goes good or if it goes bad. So
Andrea, where was that pivotal moment for you where you're like, this can actually be something amazing. Like this can actually drive impact, right? Because you have those moments like you start down or you have up and down. But where was that moment in your business and your life that you're like, wow, like this, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing that this can actually become what my long-term vision was.
Yeah, I think when we took the decision to move to the US, we, from 2010 to 2014, we distributed hand sanitizer solutions. We really wanted to understand the industry before launching anything. And then we launched our product line in Europe, and it was going good, but I'm like, I don't think we have a product that people is super excited about, and I don't think we're gonna see the growth that we expected. And I studied in the US, and I said, I think we just have to go crazy and follow the American dream, and let's see where it takes us. And we packed our life into suitcases, left without even a visa to come to the US. We had the office before having the visa, and I'm like, if they don't give us the visa, we have the office, the apartment. It was kind of crazy, but it turned out good.
Another job. That's crazy.
It was crazy. But then when we had that pivotal moment, it's just like we did the Kickstarter campaign. It was fully funded in 24 hours. And then it was amazing. The viral coefficient that we experienced in the US since the beginning, we launched in December 2018. So it was not driven by pandemic. We were like sold out constantly. We launched in 1,200 doors in Ulta in December 2019, sold out in days. So I think that was, for us, was to take that risky decision. I'm a very familiar person, so also I have not been able to travel back and forth for visa purposes to Spain. So again, all missions and all the responsibilities come with lots of sacrifices. And in my case, the biggest sacrifice it is to be so far away. Just again, and it's selfish, but at the same time, I don't think it's selfish. I think we're creating something that is making moms come to us and say, thank God you exist, because my kids never wanted to sanitize their hands, and now they go crazy about Touchland. And so many people saying like, you've been able to really turn something that people hated to do into something that they look forward. But again, everything has a trade-off.
Now you mentioned the Kickstarter campaign, and you see a lot of new businesses using Kickstarter in order to raise funds. For people who want to start a business and are thinking about using Kickstarter, or even for the consumers out there who are thinking about, giving up their hard-earned dollars to a company on their Kickstarter campaign, like, why is it so powerful for new companies who are trying to raise some money and get their product out there to utilize Kickstarter in order to get that jumpstart that they need?
To validate the product, to validate the concept, because the last thing that you want is raise funds, put it on the market and no one wants it. I think that's the best way to go. It's just like, hey, this is my idea. Would you like want to back it? And then you see that people go crazy about it. You have the data, you have the metrics, you can go now to investors, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs have false realities of, oh, people need this, people would pay this amount for this product. And I think Kickstarter allows you to test that concept and see if that false reality that you have is real or not.
And how do you go about when you do have the Kickstarter? What are some of the right ways to approach it? Like, how do you go and approach people? How do you go push that out? How do you promote it? How do you go about, putting that Kickstarter into the world and doing it, efficiently?
Well, I think it's being honest and really knowing the deadlines. I think like the worst thing that you can do, and I've seen massive errors on Kickstarter, like companies selling a product that when they went into production, it costed double than what they sold it for. Deadlines of production, saying you're going to receive your gift or your product in 1 year, and they have to wait 5 years. So really not thinking as of it, I'm going to throw an idea. It's more like we have a prototype, we have the partner selected. This is going to be my company that is going to produce the product for us. This is the lead times and everything.
Incredible.
Yeah, really incredible. And I think it's so important for people to hear this because, you do have entrepreneurs out there who are just so confused or have a hard time understanding, how do I get, the funding, or how can I start, or where do I start? And then how do I properly do it? And, I'm sure yourself, obviously, I'm sure you did your research. You maybe, I don't know if, obviously went through some bumps. But it always helps when you hear from another entrepreneur, like, hey, like, these are some of the mistakes I made, or these are some of the things that you should be doing when you're approaching to raise fund or capital or Kickstarter, because there are many ways you can easily do it the wrong way and just go completely south. So I really appreciate you sharing that because I know a lot of our listeners are going to be able to use that, for their own businesses.
Thank you. Yeah, I think like from that experience, like I think it depends also on the noble goal. I know a lot of people that has been just raising funds, never shipping the product. But if you want to build a good brand and a long-term brand, like really making sure that you communicate everything properly, because I think it can backlash through your community pretty fast.
And did your brand go through a rebranding or change when you went from, being in Spain and then coming down here? Did you guys go through a rebrand, or did you keep your branding the same? How was that?
So the branding was the same. What we did is you always have to continue improving the product and learning. So we adjusted the formulation. We made a more skincare forward formulation. We adjusted the scent. We adjusted the packaging. Before it was aluminum and it felt like a tech product, but we felt like we were more like a skincare hygiene product. So we put it into a white injected bottle. So we did some tweaks on the product to continue improving. And the branding has remained the same. This is the first time with the campaign that we did yesterday that we did some sort of like a more rebranding, in the sense that this is the first time that we are not so polite and clean and minimal, and we actually became more human and more like close to the people.
Would you say that the in Spain, allá en España, would you say that the branding is different, or the approach, like you were saying, like the way people perceive it is different than the US, the way that they look at the product, the way that they would use the product?
100%. Yeah.
What are some of those differences? I'm really interested in knowing.
It's hard to say, but I feel like it's similar to Apple. I always say that example. Apple launched in 1980 here in the US, or 85. It got, the first time that I found an Apple product in Spain was in 2008 with the iPhone. So wow. It takes time, and I think that's the good thing about the US is the eagerness to try new things, to to give a chance to entrepreneurs. I think like US is just an amazing market, like for new ideas, for like new products, concepts, everything. I think like in Europe, it takes time. Like you have to be in the market for a long time for people to incorporate a new habit or a new concept or category. And I think that's a good thing about US, the speed to market and just like the market in general, the consumerism and the openness to really try every concept that you can come up with.
Yeah, it's crazy how much we love to consume here in America, right? So it's definitely a consumer market. How did you feel, or what differences did you see in the messaging when you were in Europe versus how now you're promoting and talking about the product here in the States? I'd love to hear the differences on those.
So we try to keep the same kind of approach. I think like what we have tried to do is we did kind of an evolution of the brand. So in the beginning, it was more like the tangibilities, like trying to talk about the benefits and everything. And after a few years in the market, we're going more to the intangibility and really building that emotional link that goes beyond the product story. I think we have a product that speaks by itself. Like when you buy it, people turn 10 more people into the company. So it's just amazing. But I think what we wanted to do, same to Apple or same to Nike or other brands, is truly elevated to another level of like, let's talk about the brand, what Touchland stands for, and how do we communicate it. And that was the reason why we did the campaign.
And how do you build that evolution over time, right? Like I feel like most entrepreneurs, when they start out, they want to talk about the usability of the product. They want to talk about, okay, these are the benefits you're going to get. But it truly is about the emotion that you can convey and how people feel about the product that makes them want to buy it at the end of the day. So what steps and what lessons did you really learn in order to be able to make that shift from, talking about the brand or the product itself to talking about like, listen, this is the emotion that it's going to bring out of you. And this is this is how the product's going to help you in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, so I think it was also kind of like the standard process. Like we were pioneers, we were disruptors, creating the first skin-forward hand sanitizer. And obviously, if you're successful, you're gonna have copycats, replicas, similar wannabes, all of that. And I think like they are like few years behind you. So that's like when you are already in the market for 2 years and you've already kind of like put the product in the market, like people have tried it and everything, and now you start seeing more competitors. That's when you start like saying like, besides of all the tangibilities, which everything can be copied nowadays, and the reason why we buy iPhones, it's not just the technicalities of the product. I don't buy a computer and it's like, oh yeah, this is the RAM and this is like, I have no clue about that. I'm buying it because it is an amazing product and it's a user experience. Exactly. So I think like that's why like the tech specs can get you that far. I think like when everything can be copied, and I feel like you have to build a brand that it goes beyond the technicalities, and you have to do it, as you said, in the right time. You cannot start doing it in the beginning because again, that's selling care. So you have to do it over time and being able to prove yourself.
Definitely. No, and you're right about that. Like, you have to have that brand name eventually be strong because, the community is what helps, especially here in the US. Like, that's what people tend to like go after. It's like, wow, like I relate with this brand, or this is my community, right? And now that brand name is what holds the weight. And, you best believe most people don't even ask like, what's in this, what's in that, this, and they believe in the brand so much that they see that name or they see that logo. I'm getting it because I know they're top quality. I know that they're the top amongst all the other ones in that product field, and it's true. It's so true. I think that sometimes it could get a little difficult to see like, how do I navigate my brand? How do I push my brand out correctly to build an efficient community? And how do I do it in a way that's like real and genuine?
It's
and driving that how do I say that message, that exact message you want to drive, which I wanted to ask you as well is when you started creating that message, what were some of the, I guess, what were some of the things that you were looking for when creating that message, and what were some of the things you were doing before that maybe didn't fit your message until you actually were able to create that message?
So in regards of as you said, I think one of the things that it's very important when you build that message and the community, it's being authentic and being genuine and being consistent. Because I think like nowadays more and more like brands is all about like, this is who we are in social. And it happens similar to the personal brands. Like people is like, this is my fantastic life. This is my jet. This is my this. And then if you get to see what the real life is, it's completely different. And when it happens with brands, and when it happens with brands, it's even worse because there's brands just like proclaiming things and just like for marketing purposes, and then you dig deeper and it's just like the whole complete opposite. So I think being authentic and being genuine, it's what keeps you going, and being culturally relevant and mean it. Because I think like a lot of companies, like a lot of brands use our taglines, and it's like, fine, perfect. Yeah, of course. It's very easy to say it. It's harder to mean it. So I think like that's one of the things that we've been trying to do. In regards of the messaging, I think like the messaging has been the same from the very beginning. It's the name Touchland. We created it in 2010, and it says that it's when we look at the market before Touchland, the marketing of the hand sanitizer brand was like selling by fear. Hey, don't touch this because it has more germs than a public toilet seat. And it makes you don't want to leave. It makes you don't want to touch. And why do we have two hands if everything that we touch is going to get us incredibly sick? So we created Touchland, the land of touch, because we wanted to empower people to touch and feel. So the messaging has been always there. We also, obviously for this campaign, we hired a creative director because for us, especially, we come from Barcelona. English is not my main language. So how do I communicate my passion into words that people can relate? Because it's really hard for me to say it not being my first language. So we hired a directive creator, and I think the voice that she's been able to put into the campaign and to the assets and everything, it's very aligned with what we created in 2010. It's edgy, it has voice, it has a strong personality, and that's what we needed, because we don't want to play it safe, of course.
Now, when you come to Miami, aquí sí puedes hablar español.
Yeah, see, see, and that's one of the reasons why I don't improve my English.
You know, and I love that you're talking about the human experience, right? Having two hands, being able to use them and not being afraid, right? And you know, taking on life to the fullest and doing everything that you want to do regardless of that fear, right? And as a female entrepreneur, especially here in the States, it has to be quite difficult at times, right? To, you know, handle what seems to be a more male-dominated field, right? And I would love to get your experience and your learning lessons that you've had, you know, building such a phenomenal company, being a female, you know, because obviously we're both men, and it's difficult for us to get that perspective. And, you know, you are very confident, you're very well spoken, right? That confidence is very easy to see, even, you know, through Zoom on here, you know. So I would love to hear about, you know, how you were able to build that type of confidence and be able to, you know, go out and truly portray everything that you have to offer, right? Because as the head of the company, it really is about you, and that trickles down into the products and your employees and how you guys go about things. So I would love to learn more about you know, the experiences that you've had and the learning lessons that you've had as a female entrepreneur here in the States.
Yeah, I never pay attention to that. I just don't give a...
you can swear. You can swear. Yeah, don't give a fuck. It's okay.
Or you can say it in Spanish too.
Yeah, it just, I have brother. I was raised, like when I did judo since I was 6 years old. I was the first girl to be in the judo classes with Dolmen. They had to put like two kind of blocks for me to change in the class because they didn't have like nowhere to change for a girl. So I just don't care. Like, I'm not even thinking when I'm pitching to someone, like, is he thinking that I'm like, at the end of the day, if they have any sort of like prejudice, it changes in 30 seconds.
Yep.
I know what I want, and I don't care if like I think like at the end of the day, it's all about humans, and it's not being a man or a woman. It's just like working hard and trying your best. So I unfortunately, I cannot have any. Of course, I have like some sort of stories, like going into trade shows and someone asking me, "Where's your boss?" and something like that. but I would say, yeah, that's when you feel great. Yeah, you're talking to the boss.
Yeah, that's gotta be a great feeling, right? And just to see the deer, we in the States we say deer in the headlights look, right? Like when their eyes open up, they're like, yeah. But that, you know, I think that fearlessness is so in that, you know, don't give a fuck attitude. It's so important for entrepreneurs, right? For business owners, because if you walk into a meeting, or, you know, you're at a trade show and people can sense that fear, right? They can sense that uncomfortable, you know, sense that you have with it. Exactly. Right. So I really think that, you know, when you can just become bulletproof and you're like, listen, like the product speaks for itself. My work ethic speaks for itself. Like nothing else matters. You know, at the end of the day, you're going to be getting, you know, everything I have. And if you want to be a part of it, like you're going to be able to get the benefits out of it. And if not, then, you know, I feel, you know, again,
I'll find somewhere else.
And then also too, like, I think it's also important to know, like, I think a lot of times as young entrepreneurs and starting the game, like, you got to realize you're not going to be for everybody. We're not for everybody. We're only for those certain people that we're there for. And that is completely okay. That is completely okay.
Yeah, you cannot be liked by everybody, and that's okay. And I think, like, the most important is that you sleep quiet at night. I feel like I always said, like, I turn off opportunities, especially during COVID. And it might take me more years to get where I want to go, but I would sleep proud of myself. So, for example, like when there was COVID and frontline workers didn't have hand sanitizers to use, like another one would be like, now I'm going to monetize every single product that I can produce. And we dedicated 5% of every container to send it to frontline workers. Now we send to public school teachers because they don't have hand sanitizers to get their kids safe back to school. So, of course, my ethics are very strong, and sometimes I'm not only business driven. And if it takes me more years to get what I want to be, I just, at the end of the day, it's living within your body and feeling happy about your actions. And there's some people that just would sell their mother for success, and I would not.
That's beautiful right there. And I'm sure you got a lot of great feedback.
Yeah,
and you know,
but we don't promote it because at the end of the day, also it's like we don't want to do it as a marketing thing. And a lot of people say, like, I didn't even know that you did that, but it's more because it's giving back, not just like, hey, like buy Touchland because we do this sort of.
Totally.
Right. And I think that the ability to say no is maybe one of the most powerful tools that anybody can have. You know, whether you're an entrepreneur, you work for somebody else, right? You're a stay-at-home parent, doesn't really matter. I think the ability to say no and really set boundaries around what you want and what you're not going to accept or what you're not going to take in life is so important, you know, because especially as a business owner, right? You think like, oh, I do have to make more money. I do have to do these things, but you know, at the end of the day, you get into those situations. We've all been there, right? You get into those situations where you accept a client and the client doesn't really, you know, align with your values, and where you really see yourself going, you're like, oh, this is such a headache. Like, why did I do this, right? Was it really worth it? But when you can establish these boundaries and say, you know, this is what we're about, this is what we're going to do for you, you know, and this is the benefits that you're going to get out of it, and that's it. Like, you know, take it or leave it. You know, I'm not going to do all these extra things because my time is valuable too. I have other things going on. I just don't work for a living. Like I live to work, you know, and to provide value to people. I think you actually learn to be able to do more by saying no a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens especially with investors, I think. So, and that's very important. I always raise when I don't need it, because there's not a worse thing to do than raise funds in desperation. I lived it with my family when we had like family business and everything. And like, it's like hyenas and you're putting your soul out there. And when we were raising funds, like I was turning off people because I didn't like them like that. It's not about the money. I don't like you. I don't think you understand my vision. You say you do. All of them, they say they do. But I'm glad, because at the end of the day, there's so many, Steve Jobs got kicked out of the company because they didn't share the same vision. There's so many investors out there that they're going to regalarte los oídos, like say whatever you want to hear. And then if you don't follow your gut, and I think this is something that people should do more, like say no. Even I remember when we raised funds to move to the US, like we were like almost in a very bad position, and we had offers, and I'm like, no, I don't think this is going to be a partner for this journey. And I waited and I waited and I waited, and it turned out great. So I think like following the gut and really thinking like, will I regret this 3 years from now? Then don't do it.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because, you know, it's something that I've practiced more and more throughout my lifetime, and as I get older, you know, I realize it's like, does this align with my vision? Yes or no, right? Does this, doing this, putting time into this person, them investing in me or me investing, does this align with my vision? And if there's some doubt in there, it's probably not the person that aligns with your vision or not the thing that aligns with your vision. And it doesn't matter how great the money is, because if it doesn't align with your vision, then it's not going to work. And I think
it's going to be a problem in the future.
It's a huge problem, you know. And I think that if more entrepreneurs started seeing more of that and disregarding whether it's like, oh my God, we're going to make millions from this, or we're going to do this or this. But if it doesn't align with your vision, then the end result is not going to be exactly what you thought it was going to be. And that's the most important thing, is keeping that vision in alignment with your end result.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a hard thing to do, but because at the end of the day, it's also like, if I don't take money, I might have to shut down my business. So it is tough. I'm not saying that it's easy.
Sure.
I sweat a lot to get investment, and it was hard. And like I always say, it felt like the movie Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Especially us having a product. Like I used to go with my suitcase, my dispenser inside, visiting investors before we launched in the US, and it was tough. Like, yeah, come to Paris and we will, and wake up 2 a.m., take a flight, pay for it. When you don't have the money, you get there. It's like, well, we don't invest in consumer goods, but here's some tips. I'm like, keep calm. And I'm like, pack my things. Like, next time you can say it via Zoom. Like, don't make me grab a plane just to tell me.
But that's part of the
it's just
grit.
like
That's
some
part of your
respect.
passion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, but it also goes to show on your end the passion that you have to be willing to do things like that for yourself because of how much you believe in your product. It's really incredible to hear that from you.
Thank you. Like I always say, one day I'm an investor. Knowing how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, I will not make anyone lose their time, because I just feel it's such an unrespectful experience for entrepreneurs.
100%. Couldn't agree more. You know, we have a couple minutes left here, and I would love to get, you know, your opinion on where you really see Touchland going in the next couple of years, and where you really want to take the company, you know, so that when we do start buying your products, which is going to happen right after this podcast, like, you know, not only just from the aesthetics, but just, you know, how you are as a person, right? 100%. I want to invest in you, and I want to, you know, I want to buy your products. I want to promote them. So where do you really see things going with Touchland in the next couple of years, you know, given the world we live in today and how health conscious a lot of people are starting to become?
Yeah, so our goal is to redefine those boring routines that we have on our day-to-day of hygiene and elevate them into rituals. I still think we have a long way to go with hand sanitizers. We, as Steve Jobs said, that his dream was to have computers in every house. Our goal would be to have a power mist in every pocket. And so continue innovating through formulations, through product form factors and everything. Continue expanding our footprint with the dispensers. We have been able to put dispensers in Equinox, in Louis Vuitton, in so many places. And they really want to enable people to go through their retail experience, and like Standard Hotels, One Hotels, like so many brands have opted into Touchland when they could have gone to like a cheap hand sanitizer because they want to buy something that speaks about them and how do they, thinking about this new world that we're going to live in, like how do we want to welcome people into our businesses, and looking for like a better experience for their employees and for their customers. So
I love that.
Absolutely love that. Well, you know, I wanna first of all say thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your story, sharing your experiences as an entrepreneur, your beautiful brand that you've been creating and still going since 2010, and showing how much of a great attitude you have as an entrepreneur, as life, and the message you're bringing beyond here with your product and yourself. So I personally want to say thank you, and I know Josh as well is definitely very happy we had you on today. But before we wrap it up, I want to allow you to, of course, have the floor to share where people can connect with you, find your products, anything you want to plug in here. The floor is yours, and then I have a quick little burn round of questions.
Sure. So you can find us obviously in all social medias, but especially in Instagram and TikTok with at Touchland. Our website is touchland.com, and my Instagram is Andrea Lisbona. So I try to share also my entrepreneurial journey through there when I have time. So they can find us there.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Quick little burn around. Question number 1. What's been the craziest experience you've had with your product as an entrepreneur?
The craziest experience that I have with my product?
As an entrepreneur in your business.
Well, I think like the craziest experience is to get a 34,000 people wait list on a hand sanitizer. I think that's the craziest thing that you could ever imagine.
I think any entrepreneur would love to have that in their bucket list, you know?
Absolutely love that. Next question. Since moving from Spain to here, what has been the one thing that you have loved the most living here in the U.S.?
The freedom to do everything that I want on my day-to-day and to see results. I think that's the best thing for an entrepreneur. When I was in Europe, I was doing everything that I wanted, but I didn't see as much results. So definitely seeing the company and my product growing in a market and being loved by people.
Beautiful. And last and final question, what's the biggest piece of advice you can leave off to all our listeners today in one single sentence?
To find a good reason why and to fight for it. I think that's the goal for everyone. Just find something that wakes you up every morning and persevere through everything that you might encounter to get it.
I love that. That's a great way to wrap it up. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
We thank you guys again for joining the Sweat It Out podcast. If you love what you've heard, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you are listening to us. We appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And until next time, see you later.